no doubt about it, I guess he's back. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. We are talking about John Wick 4, and it's just so crazy to think that we are now at the 4th installment in this entire series. I've loved John Wick from the start. I can't remember how and when I heard about it for the first time, but I really remember watching the first one, and I also don't know if I watched it in the cinemas. I think I didn't watch it till I saw it on Blu-ray at home actually, and that is really crazy to think about because I remember watching it, and when it was finished the first time I thought, oh god, I want to see how the story continues, what happens next, you know, and to be where we are now, where we've seen how the story develops, etc. Really cool to see that this became one of the greatest action franchises out there. I really love that thought. Now, speaking of the entire franchise, I suppose it would be good to comment on the whole thing if you are interested. I haven't reviewed any of the previous films on the channel. The channel didn't even exist back when the third one came out, but still I would say overall I still like the first one the most. It's just because thinking back to how cool it was when we first saw it, and there's so much enigma at the start about John Wick. You're like, who is this guy, you know? I forgot also just the brilliant humour that you have throughout this series with just short tidbits, you know, and they tell you so much about John Wick himself, but there's also just so much fun in these moments where you have a good laugh. But yes, I would say the first one is still my top because it's just, while it isn't, you know, the most extravagant and out there, and also had the lowest budget, etc., I still think it's the best. I would put number 4 right after it though, simply because number 4 delivers us quite a lot of story actually. It's not like we have huge dramatic scenes, don't expect, it's a John Wick film, you know, there's not going to be, but there are good emotions and there's a lot there if you want to find it, and I really appreciate that. Then I would have number 2, and number 3 to me felt a bit much like rinse and repeat, you know, taking elements from the first 2 and just doing, yeah, that one didn't feel too original if you ask me. Obviously there are original things here and there, but overall as a whole film, it was the weakest, but still a lot of fun, so don't get me wrong, I love this franchise. And it's also crazy to look at the box office because the John Wick franchise, it's like a stair. So while each installment cost more than the previous one, they actually, you know, were rewarded for that with the box office because the earnings, they just climbed from one franchise, from one entry, from one sequel to the next, which is brilliant. I love this, you know, it's great with things like this and Top Gun Maverick, and just with all the things coming out now, like you have Dungeons and Dragons, it feels like we're having a bit of a retro phase where we're slowly getting away from all the superhero stuff and we're back to, yeah, just classical action and fun and adventure and all these kind of things. Yeah, anyway. That's enough about just general ramblings on the franchise itself. Let's talk about it. What is it about? Plot of the film. Many people would throw their hands up and go like, are you even interested? Yeah, I mean, of course. Well, we're there to see John Wick just shooting people in the head. It's still interesting. Like I say, I feel that this one actually has the most story out of all of them up until now. Because what we have here is John Wick is obviously still trying to somehow clear his name in a sense of he wants to finally exit all this assassin, you could call it society at this point. I mean, although we've seen it permeates actual society to such a level, to such a degree. But yes, he finally wants to get away out of the game, and that's what we see here. And we are shown that he is trying to achieve this by going after a certain marquis who has been given the authority by the table, which are the high-ups that exist in this world. They have given this marquis basically the mission to get rid of John Wick finally, because he's become such a nuisance and problem for the whole society of assassins that, yeah, so basically you've got these two going up against each other, and we meet new friends that John Wick has, new enemies, old friends, all sorts of stuff. The film is nearly 3 hours long, I will say that before you go in, just so you're aware. It is the longest one, and it is really long. I will also say that length is absolutely earned. It is incredible to think that this film is nearly 3 hours long. It is not boring. It is not boring at all. So it's got great pacing, and when it's over, you don't even realise it was 3 hours long. Now, just to delve a bit deeper into the plot, that was what it's generally about. So yeah, John Wick trying to find his way out by going after the table, and the table trying to get rid of him. Very, very simple. We also have travels that we've had previously, so we get to see a bit more of the world. We get to see Paris, for instance. We also get to see Osaka, so Japan, and we get to see more of the underworld as well. We're in Germany even as well, so there's a bit of a world traveller in this sense, but it's really cool, so it's used really well. And that is more or less what I'll tell you about the plot. So we get to see a lot of fights, of course, and because I mentioned that in number 3, in John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, the fights to me felt a bit like rinse and repeat. There was particularly a lot of this rolling and throwing and stuff, and that felt like it was in absolutely every fight constantly. This one feels very original again, so if you're a bit wary, oh god, it's 3 hours long and there's going to be a lot of fights. Yes, there are, but like I say, they've done them really well. So if that's the plot you're looking for, there's enough of that here, and it's in really, really high quality. Let's stick with that for a moment, because that's something that I want to talk about outside of the plot, because the action itself is phenomenal. Now, you've got Chad Stahelski, who is the director of these films. He used to be a stuntman himself, and then he decided he wants to make films, and the guy is amazing. So obviously he didn't do all the work on his own, but still, as a director, he is the one in charge. And the immediate thing I noticed after watching the film for about half an hour or so is that they have really stepped up their game when it comes to the fight scenes. Because if you look at all 3 previous ones, and fair play to Keanu Reeves, he's not the youngest guy around. He is a martial artist, I believe, but still, I don't think he started too early in life. And if you don't start early, it's quite difficult to build up the flexibility and all these kind of things. But still, there were a lot of cuts, during fight scenes. Not too many, not in the sense that it gets confusing and jumbled and all these things, but just cuts, to make it look cool and effective and all these things. Now here, we don't have these cuts anymore. So you've got the fights, the camera is staying on the fighters for a lot longer than you're used to from the previous films, and we can actually see them doing all the things, and I love it. I love it. It looks great. So the amount of work they must have put in, for the choreography and practicing it over and over to get it down for it all to look this great. I really commend them for doing that, because it is so fresh. It's so fresh. We're on number 4 and the fights suddenly feel really fresh because you just see them a lot better, because they're executed from start to finish, and the camera's staying on it without it moving around or anything, in the sense of cuts, I mean. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So that is a big plus here. It's just, and the aesthetics of the fight. Oh, but we'll talk about the aesthetics in general a bit later. The cast is amazing, and we have obviously returning characters and a lot of new ones. I mean, Keanu Reeves still amazing in the role. I saw someone comment online that I think he only speaks 170 words in the whole thing or so. But we know John Wick for that, and Keanu Reeves just uses silence so well, his mannerisms, etc. He's a great actor. People laugh at some of his early stuff. I mean, yeah, okay, understandably in certain places, but I think he's really come into his own in this role, and he does a lot with very few words. Let's put it that way. You've got Lawrence Fishburne, you've got Ian McShane in here. They're always great, of course. You have got, unfortunately, Lance Reddick. I mean, not unfortunate that he's in it. I love Lance Reddick. I mean, unfortunate because he passed away just a few days before the release of this film. He is in this one as well. And after you've watched it, it's slightly spoilerish, I suppose you could say. But let's put it that way. It's a very special way to watch this film with Lance Reddick, particularly after you know that he's recently passed away. That's all I'll say. But yeah, he's great in it as well. We've got a few new characters here, which are all great. Donnie Yen is amazing. I love him in all the things that he does. Interestingly, he's again playing a blind martial artist like he does in Rogue One. Don't know why. But he does it well anyway. You've got Hiroyuki Sanada, who I love from all sorts of films. He obviously appears in the Osaka part of the story. Then you've got Bill Skarsgård as the Marquis. I love him. He is an incredible actor. I mentioned him just recently in the film Barbarian that I talked about. Yeah, he's great in all the things that he does. Then you've got Clancy Brown appearing here. Love him. He's got a very cool role in this. I won't spoil it for you. It's just if you're a fan of his, you'll be happy to know that he is in this. And last but not least, I'll mention Shamir Anderson, who is a very interesting character in this whole story. So it's a very interesting role that he takes on, which also makes the whole thing fresh. So yeah, acting, wow, phenomenal, etc. One actor I nearly forgot to mention is Scott Adkins. He is an actual martial artist, so he's been in many things. He's also got quite an online presence, I think even on YouTube too. He's got arguably one of the coolest characters in this thing. I really enjoyed him, and I was really impressed by his acting quality. I must say, you know, in terms of acting, I think he might have just been the standout person in this film, which is difficult because you've got many cool performances. But his character, together with what they give him to do in the film and the look of it, I'll mention that as well. His whole scenes, especially as it starts, it really feels like you're in an Arkham game, a Batman game, because the look and feel of it is just so spot on. Really cool. I love that bit in Berlin with him with Scott Adkins. That's really one of my favourite parts of the whole film. I really needed to mention that separately as well. Just going through this list, I just realised that, yeah, they could have used maybe a few more women in this franchise. There are female people in this film and a few female characters in this film. They have got some parts to play, just not too big. So yeah, I feel that they could have done a bit more in that section. Anyway, the last thing I do want to mention is the cinematography, because these films look amazing. It's cool that John Wick has got its own look. You can immediately tell that you're watching a John Wick film. We've got all these cool things with neon lights going on, so nighttime stuff always looks amazing. This whole nighttime neon stuff is particularly when we are in Osaka in Japan. That looks just phenomenal. But overall, the whole film, when we've got scenes during the daylight, the whole film has just got the saturation turned up. Everything is bathed in this orange glow, you know, we've got the sun, etc. But it looks really cool, I will say that. I love the look of the film and just the shots themselves. Chad Stahelski, he's got such a good eye for what he wants, not just in action scenes, but overall. The camera is usually moving and it all looks interesting. So you can tell that even just when it's someone getting into a car or so, he's really thought about what he wants to do with these shots. And I noticed that in the previous ones as well, but here we can see him going to an even greater level. So the film looks amazing and it's just fun to actually watch. And the fight scenes, I've already mentioned that the choreography just is usually in one shot, you know, without many cuts happening. I mean, there are cuts, but you know what I mean. But it's not just that, but just the scenery, you know, and everything. We've got things in dance clubs where you've got people dancing in the foreground, background, whatever, and it's all just interesting to watch, and it looks so cool. You've got stuff in Berlin happening, again, nightclub with neon lights, etc. Looks so cool. When you watch this film, and I must agree with a comment my brother made, he said, we need a game, we need a John Wick game, because number 4 really showed you what a John Wick game would look like, because it's just all so cool to look at, really. Okay, right, I'll stop rambling on. I could probably talk another 10 minutes about this film. I think I've said everything that I need to say. I got everything in that I wanted to say. It is great. If you're already a John Wick fan, I don't need to convince you. You'll just be so delighted that this is really, it takes it to another level. And so many things, the story, the characters, the acting as well, yeah, I mean, even that's better, it's elevated. The look of it, the feel of it, really cool. So yeah, a really glowing review. I had so much fun at this, and we had so much fun, my brother and I, just, yeah, such a cool film. I can't wait to own it on Blu-ray to watch it at home. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about this film, or of course the previous John Wicks. Have you got opinions there? What is your ranking if you've got one of the 4 films, or even just the 3 if you haven't seen the 4th one yet? I'd love to know any and all of that down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care, bye.